What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and this Bud Light situation just keeps getting crazier and crazier by the moment. And ever since day one, the mainstream media has been trying to portray this as what they label a conservative boycott. Basically trying to place everyone in a box. Basically saying that only conservatives have an issue with the indoctrination of little kids. Basically saying, hey, if you don't want men in dresses to promote weird stuff to your kids, then you must be a conservative. The only problem is, a lot of the people who have a problem with what Bud Light did, they aren't conservatives. I have no issue with what you are. Conservative, this, that, be what you want to be. As long as you don't cause problems for me, I'm not going to cause problems for you. But I can tell you one thing, I'm not a conservative. I'm also not a liberal or a leftist. I tell people all the time, I'm just a guy in pursuit of the truth. And I got to be honest with you all. I'm not convinced that we aren't dealing with a uniparty system. I believe that politics are mainly just all show. My granddaddy told me when I was a little kid, it stuck with me forever. Some of you already know this. But he told me that politicians, they argue on television and then they go. When the cameras stop rolling, they go and they eat dinner together and have drinks. I believe that we are being sold the illusion that there is opposition and opposing sides in Washington, D.C. I don't believe that we really have a two-party system. If so, then surely something would be done about all of this madness running wild in our country, but nothing's ever done. People can point out the problem, but they don't do anything about it. So, I'm not what you would consider a conservative at all. And I'm not what you would consider a leftist. I'm not what you would consider any of this stuff. But the mainstream media is desperate to paint people as conservatives if they simply just don't want their kids being indoctrinated or exposed to a bunch of wild stuff. And they're digging their own grave when they do that. Because what does that mean? If you're a logical person and you're not a political person like me, I'm not a really political person, and you get labeled a conservative for simply sticking up for kids, then you're automatically going to associate people who are after kids as the opposing side, as the opposite in the political spectrum. So they're basically, when they label people as conservatives for not wanting kids to be indoctrinated, they're labeling leftists as the ones that are indoctrinating kids. They're doing that on their own. That's not my words. That's what they're portraying, right? But I find it funny that they labeled this a conservative boycott when we had a lot of prominent voices, a lot of prominent conservative voices trying to convince people to stop the boycott. I don't know if you all remember this, but pretty early on in the story, I was very critical of this. Donald Trump Jr. basically said, hey, guys, we shouldn't boycott and ruin this American brand. Meanwhile, I know that Anheuser-Busch is no longer an American brand. But Donald Trump Jr. was literally telling people, hey, we shouldn't boycott. We should chill out. We shouldn't ruin this brand over this. And there were other conservative voices, like basically encouraging people to no longer boycott Bud Light because Anheuser-Busch gives the GOP a lot of money. So we had a lot of Republicans out here trying to convince us to not boycott Bud Light. And ever since then, people have been wondering, well, if Donald Trump Jr. feels that way, how does Donald Trump feel about everything? Well, it just so happens that earlier today, Donald Trump himself finally acknowledged this Bud Light situation. And without talking your heads off anymore, I'll just go ahead and show you what he had to say. On Truth Social, he posted a post basically promoting a book, and here's what he said. Here's what he had to say. It's time to beat the radical left at their own game. Money does talk. Anheuser-Busch now understands that. Great new book by Wayne Allen Root. Buy your copy today. So just a few words. Money does talk. And Anheuser-Busch understands that now. You know, a classic quip from Donald Trump. But you know what? It doesn't matter to me how Donald Trump feels about the boycott, because I march to the beat of my own drum. Donald Trump can come out tomorrow, just like his son did, and say, hey, please don't boycott Bud Light. I'm not going to stop the boycott. I don't think the majority of anyone, regardless, even if you support Trump or you don't support Trump, you vote for this guy, you vote for that guy, I believe that everyone has their feet firmly placed in the ground. I believe that people, normal people, not just conservatives, just people who don't want their kids tampered and bothered by the weirdness that's running wild in our society, I believe we have our heels planted, and this is the hill that we're all willing to die on. Yeah, it's weird that the Bud Light is the straw that broke the camel's back, but it is what it is. I don't think that any voice, I don't think any one person can stop this at this point. Not even Donald Trump. But I'll tell you what, I guarantee you this, that little comment, that's the nail in the coffin, folks. You see, people like me and the majority of you all, and like I said, I don't care if you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump. I believe the majority of us, we have values regardless of who you vote for. So even if you like Donald Trump, I believe that the majority of you all would still stand by the boycott of Bud Light because of your values. And because of the fact that, hey, we don't want these weirdos in dresses, these dudes in dresses that pretend like they're 13-year-old girls preying on our kids, right? So I believe the majority of people were standing firm on this regardless. But because we had voices like Donald Trump Jr. and other people out here calling for an end to the boycott, maybe there were some people who were unsure about it, right? Maybe there were some people who were like, you know what? Well, if Donald Trump Jr. says that we shouldn't boycott Bud Light, whatever, we're not going to boycott it. Well, guess what? Now Daddy Trump done came out and said, hey, Anheuser-Busch now understands that money talks. It's the nail in the coffin. I believe that we're going to see this boycott get even worse now. If people weren't on board, people are going to get on board now. So, hey, I mean, like I said, it's a sad day for Bud Light. It's a wonderful day for you and me. We have plenty of other beers we could drink. I don't drink beer that much anyway, so it's not going to bother me one bit. You know what I mean? It's not going to bother me one bit. But honestly, oh man. At this point, it's like we need to cue the Undertaker theme song. I don't know if any of you all watched wrestling back in the 90s. You know the Undertaker? You got to play that music because Bud Light is on the way out. And unlike the Undertaker, Bud Light isn't going to rise up again out the casket. No, it's over. It's a wrap. It's done. It's done. It is done. The finishing move. Speaking of wrestling, I think Donald Trump just came in with the finishing freaking tombstone, the rock bottom, the choke slam off the top rope, the stone cold stunner. It's a wrap for Bud Light. Let me know your thoughts though down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And as always, remember to remain opinionated.